gals, Nary here from Drake Wayne Gamer. If you know me on Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Angels with Scaly Wings, Remy's Path. So y'all, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm Chan, you are up, and let's go! We had just discovered that we had been captured by the Administrator. Spooky. The furniture looks like this, whatever this stuff is, looks like his eyes. Anyway, that is more true than you might think. Just who are you then? I may have arrived through the portal like you, but my story is very different. Oh, alright then. Before the fall of humanity, I was an engineer. I was part of a team that was formed to create bioweapons. Our task was to create these bioweapons in a country where their development hadn't yet been regulated or outlawed. These weapons were planned to be a low-cost alternative for poorer countries to wage war, so they would no longer have to rely on expensive drones and machines for warfare. I was to set up a lab where our bioweapon development would take place. It was a clandestine operation, set to be in the middle of the wilderness. The laboratory was an independent research and living unit, and provided everything we needed without having to rely on external resources or even an existing power grid. Everything was to be teleported right into the middle of nowhere, with no traces of paper with a paper trail to follow, so the international communities and law enforcement would have no idea of our operations. Our only connection to the outside world after setup would have been a two-way portal to our headquarters, who would provide everything we needed. While we already could teleport individual people, teleporting a whole building was another matter entirely. Our solution was matter compression technology, incredibly expensive, but operating in the gray market was also very lucrative. The technology behind it was much more complicated than even teleportation, despite being based on it. While teleportation works by utilizing black holes with a beginning and an end, compression technology relies on a loop, keeping matter in a sort of limbo state until the loop is broken. Working with black holes was very complicated to begin with, but this shape required much more finesse, and thus was much more expensive. I was to be sent alone to set up the lab and the portal so the rest of the team could arrive safely. In case you didn't know, it is possible to use a portal to send someone to a previously defined endpoint. Therefore, it is not required to have a portal at the destination to be sent there, but as you can imagine, this is also very dangerous. A single variable off by a fraction could mean the difference between landing safely at your destination and smothering in space. Of course, my employer did not want anything like that to happen, not necessarily for my own sake, but because of all the unfathomably expensive equipment I had with me. Regardless, something went wrong anyway. Despite all their checks and safeguards, they could only minimize the risk so much. Even if the risk is a fraction of a fraction, sometimes you are just that unlucky. And sometimes it turns out that your bad luck is a blessing in disguise. I arrived safely somewhere in the jungles of Earth, yet it was not the destination that had been planned. I knew something was off, but nevertheless I set to work immediately. At the very least I could prepare the building. I would have shelter, and then I could begin preparations for our project. Getting the portal into working order would take more time, as it was a complicated process that could take several weeks. If things had gone wrong as I suspected, I would have at least been able to contact with headquarters after the portal had been set up, and I would be able to return. While teleporting the lab to the wrong location was certainly a costly mistake, I was still lucky to have my life. Before long, I discovered the truth about the place I had arrived. While I was still on Earth, it was not the Earth I knew. It was the Earth of 65 million years ago. We knew that by utilizing black holes for teleportation, time travel was a theoretical possibility. It was something even my company didn't dare to attempt, though teleportation in itself was still a very new technology. Yet here I was, 65 million years in the past, with a research station all to myself. The company would revel in the opportunity to study and profit from all the different life forms I could see. If only they knew about them. I spent the few weeks setting up the portal as planned, yet when I tried to re-establish contact with my employer, I was met with silence. Despite the time discrepancy, the portal should have been able to find my company in the present. For a black hole, sending something through time is no different than sending something through space. However, when we built the portals, we gave them a specialized configuration. It was only possible to travel through space by aligning them across the time axis. Second, y'all. Water time. Oh yeah, that's some good stuff. Alrighty. That meant that I, in the past, would still be able to search for portals in the present to connect with. My counterparts in the present, though, would not be able to find me in the past even if they tried. But I couldn't find them, not a single one. Even after checking the portal for its function, I determined that, for all intents and purposes, the portals from the company should have been there to connect with. It was then that I had a terrible realization. The portals in the present didn't exist anymore, or were no longer operational. Maybe the blunder of teleporting the lab caused them to reconsider the risks of using this technology. After all, it was already controversial and had been outlawed in several countries. I wouldn't have been surprised if they decided to cut their losses, but it was highly unlikely that they would have immediately shut down every single portal and left me stranded with that notice. Portal technology was still being relied on in several places in the present. In my mind, only one possibility remained: superweapons. Various nations had been using them as bargaining chips for some time. I didn't think the threats had become that serious, but one of them must have launched their weapon and destroyed the majority of Earth. It could have been the result of a malfunction, or perhaps the political situation had escalated. Either way, it was not possible for me to establish any means of communication to find out what had really happened. I could have sent myself back into the present with the right coordinates, but this was a risky endeavor, and I also had to ask myself if it was a present I wanted to return to. I was sure that if anything it was even left of our world, the aftermath or a possible retaliatory strike would take care of the rest. In the end, I had to realize that whichever present did exist was likely not the one that was worth returning to. It made my decision all the easier. Instead of returning to a destroyed civilization, I saw an opportunity. Rather than creating bioweapons, I could use the lab to create a new civilization shaped by my own ideals. I had all the necessary data and the most modern methods and machines at my fingertips. Besides, most of the processes had already been automated. In the end, I still used the lab for what it had been created for: fusing human and animal DNA to create beings that were mostly animal, but possessed a greater intelligence that allowed them to learn whatever we wanted them to. As I didn't have any animal samples sent with me when I initially arrived, I collected them from the sources available to me. Automated processes mixed the DNA further across the samples. New abilities were added like enhanced armor, flight, and spit weapons to make the new creatures more effective in combat. The result was a number of different species, each tailored and optimized to fill a specific role in a war situation. Hormones allowed me to speed up their growth, and with the lab's learning program, they could be educated in whatever manner I saw fit. My first concern was self-sufficiency. They needed the kind of knowledge that would enable them to come together as their own independent society. Luckily, the AI that automated all the processes in the lab was more than helpful. I unleashed the first generation of my creation, and as their leader, founded our first village. I thought we would really pull it off, and once I saw that they could survive without my guidance and also govern themselves, I knew my plan was a success. Oh my god, he created all of them! Holy fuck! That's insane! Oh my god, that's insane. When I realized that this new society would eventually be destroyed, I told myself that I would do anything I could to save it. Destroyed? What are you talking about? Haven't you realized where we are? The Chicxulub asteroid is headed for us. With a diameter of over 10 kilometers, its impact will create humongous clouds of dust, throwing Earth into a literal dark age. They will block out the sunlight for over a year, killing off many species of plants that rely on photosynthesis to survive. As a result, animals that eat those plants will also vanish, as will those who sought sustenance from these herbivores. All in all, 75% of all species will vanish, and in terrestrial ecosystems, all animals heavier than a single kilogram will die. That would be 2.2 pounds, in case you didn't know. It will be the end of everyone who lives here, every single dragon you have seen, unless we do something. What am I supposed to do? Do you not wish to save them? I came here to help humanity. Now you tell me that this society, this whole world, is also on the brink of extinction? That is the truth. What kind of difference could a single person like me even make to save it? Right now, it's also a single person that presents its greatest threat. Reza? How? He ordered to stop the comet. We will need as much power as possible. We reclaimed all the generators he stole. Besides, how could a few of them be enough to make a difference for something like this? Don't forget that Reza is still out there looking for more. The truth is, I don't know if all the generators we could gather would ever be enough. We only require enough power to divert the comet's path during the crucial moment. But even if this plan is possible, we will need every single generator we can get. So my goal hasn't changed. Just need to find Reza. Yes, but you'll need my help. And maybe the help of others. You know that Reza is dangerous, and with his gun he has a clear advantage. Don't think that he wouldn't hesitate to kill you if you were in his way. Then what shall we do? Do you know where he is? No, but I think you'll find him soon, and you can count on my support when that happens. I see. There's one thing that still doesn't make any sense to me, though. The dragons have myths about you, but they don't know or remember you. They haven't seen any humans for who knows how long. How much time could have passed since you created them and now? Second, y'all. Water time. Oh, man. What a tale this is. Oh my god. This is insane. How many generations could it take to forget? Why isn't there proof of your existence? I don't know exactly how long it's been myself. When I realized what time period I was in and that my creation was about to be wiped out in the future, I wanted to go to that future and see what they had become. I disabled the portal's time access safeguards and thus enabled it to connect with others in different times. This also included that very same portal in the future. With the generator of our lab being able to supply the portal with power for an indefinite amount of time, I was able to travel to any point in the future that I wanted. The entry and endpoint of the black hole would be the same place in the same portal, with the way traveled being just along the time axis. Since I could now search for connection points in any time period, I could look for my own portal in the future and pinpoint the moment its signal stopped. The comet. Exactly. I found that specific point in time and traveled to a future that was as close to that event as I could safely manage. When I arrived here, my escape from the portal's hiding place led to its discovery by the dragons. It and the laboratory were unearthed. I still don't understand how our portal found yours, or why we ended up arriving at this particular time period. The portal you found was no doubt one of my company's. They must have been connected before, so the corresponding data for their connection already existed when you found it. I'm not sure if that could bypass the anti-time travel safeguards, though. Was it completely operational when you found it? No, it took a little bit of tinkering. Probably jumping the hardware safeguard in the process. Now, consider that connected portals travel along the time axis together. The data for their beginning and end points are adjusted automatically. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to transport anything from one place in the world to another without also sending it through time. Since these two portals must have been connected at some point, the corresponding data for the connection between those two portals already existed. When using the same connection without changing any of the data, this would mean that despite that time discrepancy between those two portals, time still progressed linearly for them. I'm not sure I understand. Let me try to rephrase that. The portal you found in my own share a connection. However, while the connection is locked to a certain place, which is wherever the portal is at that very moment, it is not connected to a specific point in time. For us, and the physical machines that are the portals, time passes linearly, and we can't do anything about that. However, for black holes, this isn't the case. Just as their entry and endpoints can be in different places, they can also be in different times. In order to not send something through time, we just want to transport something from one portal to another. The portals are anchored together in such a way that the time data is automatically synchronized. Essentially, this means that ever since you arrived in this world, the same amount of time that has passed for you has also passed in the place where you came from. I see. So, despite being in different time periods, their time still passes linearly for both sides of the portals. Otherwise, it would not have been possible for you to send messages back and forth to each other. If they were not synchronized, the portals on both sides would stay connected not only to a single point in space, but also to a single point in time, thus making proper two-way communication impossible. However, this is only possible through the connection that has already been forged. If we wanted to, we could also use our portal to send you back to your own time period, but to a moment before Reza even arrived here. But that would mean that there would be two of me, right? Wouldn't that cause a time paradox? I can only tell you that it would work. No one has studied time travel before, though, so if there are any consequences, then I am not sure of them. Most likely an entirely new timeline would be created. There would be a timeline without a Keegan altogether, and in the new one, there would be two of you. This is becoming way too complicated. I apologize. To come back to your original question, I am not sure how much time passed between the time I left my newborn society and now. Since the portal was not designed for time travel, I have no way of knowing how the variables translated to our perception of time. It could have been thousands or even millions of years. How could the portal or even its power source still be operational after all this time? The portal receives its power from the generator in the lab. These units were fitted with the absolute best technology we had to offer. It was designed to provide sustainable power completely independently from any already existing network or power lines. It gains energy from many sources: sun rays, Earth's heat and movement, just to name a few. Keep in mind that it had to power a whole laboratory and research station, while also providing the energy required for all of its inhabitants and associated energy expenditures. Taking its power from Earth itself, a generator like this could continue providing power to the lab indefinitely. Speaking of which, why haven't I seen a single dinosaur since I arrived? It seems that the dragon society expanded over the whole continent. Many still hunt on their own for sustenance, and as such, the original species they were based on have mostly vanished. As in direct competition, ours proved to be far superior. Also, they have probably taken measures against having big predators roam their cities and villages. Yet while the dragon population has increased tremendously, I have found that by and large, their society as a whole has not changed much. Is that why everything here looks like it was made for humans? I suppose so. The learning program I initially used gave them knowledge about the things and how to create them. Yet of course, those were only human inventions and designs. Did they never once stop to think that they should adjust how certain things look? A lot of the furniture and objects I've seen look very impractical for a dragon. I was surprised at that too, but I have an explanation for this phenomenon. Don't forget that their genome was designed by an AI program to make them into effective bioweapons. The idea was to have them indoctrinated at a young age. After reaching adolescence, their learning capacity would be greatly diminished. This resulted in subjects that would stay loyal and be unlikely to change their desired behaviors. Instincts also play a role. I imagine they are very much at odds with their learned behavior. Instincts in animals never change, and instinctual behaviors will always be there. If a given trait has been programmed into their genome as an instinct, it is not very likely to change, even through numerous generations. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and pause it right there. Wow, that is a lot to take in. That's a big exposition dump if I've ever seen one, but... man, oh boy, it certainly reveals quite a bit about this, planet that we are on. Oh, I'm sorry, Earth, with bioengineered dragons. Wow, yeah, that is insane. Okay, I actually didn't expect the game to take this route, but here we are. All right, anyway, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, leave a super thanks, or a tip if you can. It always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.